Hello, everyone. Welcome to the inaugural broadcast of Legal Edge. My name is Angelo MacDonald. I'm an attorney licensed in New York and New Jersey, but I practice all over the United States. I've been practicing law for more than 35 years, and this is the initial broadcast, and I'm pleased to be able to provide this information to you. Today, we are going to discuss one of the most important things that happens to most people, and that is what happens when you're pulled over by the police. As a lawyer, I often come across questions about our rights and responsibilities when pulled over by the police. So in today's video, we'll be discussing the question, what are my rights when being pulled over by the police? So let's jump right into it. Later, in another issue of this broadcast, we'll discuss, well, what happens after you've been issued the ticket and you have to deal with it with respect to the courts. When you find yourself being pulled over by the police, it's crucial to know what your rights are. Understanding your rights can help ensure that you protect yourself and handle the situation appropriately. So let's go over the fundamental rights during a traffic stop. And there's three basic ones. I mean, there's many things you can discuss, but the three basic ones are your right to remain silent. You have a right to remain silent and not answer questions that may incriminate you. That does not mean that you should not cooperate with the police. You should not provide your license and registration and proof of insurance. And of course, your biographical information. That you do have to do. It doesn't mean that you should be uncooperative. You can simply remain silent if you feel as if they are asking you to say things to incriminate yourself. So, for example, I wouldn't necessarily admit that I went through the red light, or I wouldn't admit that I was speeding. I wouldn't admit that I had been drinking or smoking marijuana, for example. The second right is the right to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures. It's the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution. That protects you from unreasonable searches and seizures. So by saying unreasonable, that means, there are reasonable searches and seizures. But in most cases, the police need probable cause, which is a defined term in the law that we'll discuss in future broadcasts, and or a warrant to search your belongings, including your vehicle. And of course, in the future, we'll discuss what a warrant is and how the police can obtain one and what rights and responsibilities you have when presented with a warrant. The third is you have the right to request an attorney. If you are arrested or taken into custody, you have the right to request an attorney. You can refuse to speak to them, like we discussed earlier, but if there is an arrest, you should have an attorney. Now that we know your rights, let's discuss how to handle a traffic stop effectively. And there's basically four things to remember. One, remain calm and pull over safely. And that's probably the most important one, believe it or not. Because if you're pulled over on the side of a road or a highway, it can be very dangerous, not only for you, the passengers in your vehicle, if there are any, or the law enforcement officer, because they're going to be standing, exposing themselves to oncoming traffic. But when you see the police lights behind you, signal and pull over safely. Pull over to a safe location as soon as you can. Stay calm and keep your hands visible and on the steering wheel. Avoid making any sudden movements that might raise suspicion. Because remember, the police officer doesn't know who you are, doesn't know what you're doing. And there's always this heightened element of suspicion on the part of a police officer. He doesn't know what you're going to do or how you're going to react. So you want to remain calm, keep your hands on the wheel, follow the instructions of the officer, and don't make any sudden movements. Second, which is kind of obvious, provide required documents. So when the officer asks, be prepared to hand over your license, your registration, and proof of insurance. If you do not have any of those things, that is maybe a opportunity for the officer to ask you to step out of the car, to search your vehicle, and or issue you tickets for not having those items. What I recommend is you keep the license, the registration, and the proof of insurance together in a easily accessible place, so that when the officer does ask, you're not searching around looking for things, again, making the officer more nervous. So I usually keep mine all together in the glove box. And if I'm pulled over, which I have been, and you just hand that entire packet to the officer, and that way he feels more comfortable, and it just makes the whole experience at least move a little smoother. Third, Be respectful and cooperative. While you have the right to remain silent, it's essential to be respectful and cooperative with law enforcement, with the police officer. While you have the right to remain silent, if you start arguing or being confrontational or being overly questioning things too much, then that could escalate the situation. Again, it makes the officer have to wonder why you're behaving this way, what are you trying to hide, and things of that nature. So the idea is to just stay composed and follow the instructions. And the fourth, document the encounter if you can. Typically, some people have cameras inside their car. Maybe your phone is set up where you can either record audio or video. Try not to make it all that obvious because that could escalate the situation. It could infuriate the police officer. But if you want, you could try to record the whole interaction in the event that something goes wrong and you need to look into it later, or maybe if you go into court. That's the least important, I think, of the four. I think if you follow those four instructions, you should be fine. So what happens is, despite your best efforts, let's just say the situation arises where your rights are violated during the traffic stop. If you believe your rights were violated and have been infringed upon, there are some steps you can take. Number one, you could file a complaint, usually with the Internal Affairs Division of the police department or the state police. You could also reach out to the local district attorney's office, and you could provide whatever information that you want in support of your claim to those agencies, and they may look into the matter for you. Like I said previously, if you had recorded the situation, that would be potentially very good evidence. Second, you consult with an attorney. Oftentimes, the attorney can explain to you what the legal process is, what the consequences might be, what the advantages and disadvantages might be with respect to filing a complaint against an officer for what you believe was some sort of infraction upon your rights. So I know it's a bit short, and I know it's our first video, and I'm just thrilled to be providing this information to you, and I'm hoping that you're going to tune in every now and then just to see what's going on in the legal world. Today wraps up our topic of what are my rights when being pulled over by the police. Remember, knowing your rights and how to handle a traffic stop may make a significant difference in protecting yourself and maintaining a peaceful encounter with law enforcement. If you found this video helpful, be sure to give a thumbs up or a positive comment and share it with whomever you wish to share it with. Again, I really appreciate this opportunity to provide some information to you. See you soon.